this session and appreciate those who are joining in person, but we also plan to share this out to other community members after the event. So my name is Emily Scott, and I am a Senior Program Officer at Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC. LISC is one of the backbone organizations that helps convene the Opportunity Investment Consortium of Indiana. We're really excited to have you all here today to highlight, to see the presentation and the highlight of the Rural Opportunity Zones Initiative Community Showcase of Kentland, Indiana. We're going to be joined by Julie Rigrish, the Regional Director of Purdue Center for Regional Development, and Mike Davis, the Opportunity Zone Task Force Director from Kentland, Indiana. So first, I just want to share a little bit about the Opportunity Investment Consortium of Indiana for anyone who may not know. The OIC, as we like to call it, was formed when Opportunity Zone legislation was originally introduced to help be a convening table for investors, community organizations, city, regional governments, other type of capacity building organizations, technical assistance providers, and others who had a shared interest in helping to leverage the Opportunity Zone designations and neighborhoods and communities to really impact the places that they care about, to really make those vibrant and economically resilient communities. So the consortium serves as a shared table where both capital and resource providers, investors, and other quasi-governmental philanthropic organizations can come together and both provide technical assistance to communities, connect projects to investment, and really share learnings and best practices that emerge about opportunity zones, as we've all learned and grown through this together. Next slide. So our Opportunity Investment Consortium really has kind of three levels of participation, or types of participants. So we have investor members. So those are financial institutions, which may range from private sector investors like venture funds and equity funds to more nonprofit or governmental investors like CDFIs, government agencies, and other funders. And those organizations all have access to a deal portal that exists where if a business or a developer is looking for an investment, they can enter information about that deal into that portal, and that gets connected to those different investors who may both have opportunity funds, but also have other investment tools that could be a good fit for that project to try to help get the word out about investment opportunities throughout the state. We also have a number of education and resource partners that are members of the Opportunity Investment Consortium. Those include state agencies, regional associations, LEDOs, chambers, and other organizations that really work with communities, work with small businesses, work with developers to kind of cultivate market opportunities, and who are really trying to advocate for the economic vibrancy of their regions. And then finally, we have different professional service members. So we all know that the ins and outs of opportunity zone investment are very complicated and not necessarily something that the average person can navigate. So there are a number of legal, accounting, and other kind of management consultant firms that can really provide that technical assistance for someone looking to create an opportunity fund, looking to invest in an opportunity zone project and navigate those complexities. So we have these different types of members and partners to really to try to serve the communities the best that we can. And the organization is really kind of an informal table, like I said, that is comprised of the state of Indiana, LISC, SENER, Indy Chamber, the Indiana Bond Bank, IEDC, OCRA, IHCDA, and other members, and LISC serves as the backbone for the online portal that I mentioned. Next slide. So since the conception of and inception of the Opportunity Investment Consortium, we have several kind of methods of outreach which we try to reach our communities throughout the state. And so we have a newsletter that we'd encourage you to sign up for if you don't already receive it. And we share information on successful opportunity zone projects, trainings, any updates on regulation that might be relevant to folks looking to invest in opportunity zones. And then our portal, which I shared, is really a tool for a business or a developer who's looking to try to attract investment to a specific project can enter their information, and then it gets sent out to about 20 or 25 different investors who may have a variety of different resources to be able to match with that opportunity. So we'd welcome you to share that with your networks and visit our opportunityinvestmentconsortium.com website. So now we're going to get to the meat of the presentation. We're really excited to have the opportunity to highlight the Rural Opportunity Zone Initiative in Kentland, Indiana today. As we all know, sometimes rural communities get overlooked for opportunity because of lack of exposure. And so we're really excited for the work that ROZI and the different organizations that have really made that initiative possible to really help provide capacity building and technical resources to a number of rural communities to really help them leverage the opportunity zone designations that they have. And so I'm going to hand things over to our partners at Purdue Regional Development and Julie to share more about the ROZI initiative.
Thank you, Emily. So first, I'd like to just once again acknowledge all of our partners in this that made it possible for us to be able to do this for the rural communities, which was the Office of Community and Rural Affairs and the Indiana Housing. And it would not have been possible at all without additional funding from the USDA Rural Development. So with that, I'll kind of briefly tell you a little bit about what the Rural Opportunity Zone Initiative is. I also wanted to take just a second to introduce all of our team members. I'm not sure who all was able to join today, but Dr. Bo Ballou was the originator of the idea of the Rural Opportunity Zone Initiative. And so we were grateful that he had this idea and was able to create these partnerships so that we could provide this program. So the goals of the program were to help communities through an application process. They were selected to participate and help them in guidance in developing a leadership team, and then helping with community buy-in through facilitation of focus groups, community focus groups, and then helping them with technical assistance to identify community assets and strengths. We also provided education and knowledge about opportunity zones and what types of investments are viable investments, what kinds of things investors are looking for. We provided them with some guidance and tools and resources for identifying projects that could be viable projects for investment in their opportunity zones, helping them narrow that down, and then also provided them data, mapping resources, and ultimately the deliverable at the end is a marketable opportunity zone investment prospectus that they can market on portals such as the Indiana Opportunity Zone Consortium, as well as the Opportunity Exchange. And those opportunity zone investment prospectuses are also available on various websites of the participants. So we started with phase 1 cohort that we've reflected here. And these are just sample snapshots of the initial investment prospectuses that were developed in phase 1. And we are currently in the middle of phase 2 and hoping to get those prospectuses finalized soon. And they can be using those for marketing as well. And we're really excited for the opportunity today that one of our participants from the first cohort, Mike Davis, is able to share what they have done. They've utilized so many resources and really done a fantastic job of developing that leadership team and sustaining that leadership team. They're still working in their opportunity zones. So I'm excited for Mike to share with you today about what they're doing. And thanks again, Emily.
All right, Mike, we're ready for you if you'd like to share about Kentland.
Okay, thank you all. On behalf of the town of Kentland, I want to thank the Opportunity Investment Consortium of Indiana, our ROZI team, which is of course the combination of the Office of Community and Rural Affairs and the Purdue Center for Research and Development. They've been incredibly helpful. I am Mike Davis, as they mentioned. In 1983, my longtime partner, John Cassidy, and I conceived the idea that became a seed company. 27 years later, we sold to a subsidiary of the Dow 30 Corporation. Our families continue to invest, own, and operate local Kentland businesses because we believe Kentland has a very bright future. I volunteer to lead our economic development effort under the auspices and encouragement of our town board, an enthusiastic and talented task force, which I work with daily, and importantly, broad community support. For those of you who may not be familiar with Kentland, we are located in Newton County, which is about halfway between Chicago and Indianapolis. We are the largest town in our opportunity zone, which is a 10-mile square census tract. The opportunity zone has hovered around 2,400 people for several years. The Kentland proper is around 1,700 people. We are the county seat of Newton County. We have a rather diverse workforce. The highest workforce we have is at 17%, which is manufacturing, and then 17% in trades, transportation, utilities. We're agriculturally based, but that only comprises about 8% of our workforce. To start out our project, when we were designated an opportunity zone, we had to determine who we were. So we determined Kentland's DNA and pillars, and we gathered that through community surveys, as Julie mentioned, the town meetings that we had, and then just general input from our task force. But the town's DNA and pillar statements provide a path for us with our called Boldly Moving Forward, which is not only our tagline, but it also captures the essence of our mission. So the components of that are, first of all, quality. Quality is what in Kentland, quality, we have what we need and we have access to what we want. We have a very strong sense of community, possessing a strong rural identity. We have a dedicated group of people who are focused on forging a bright future. This is an ongoing investment that is really what we consider a core value of our town. Our town is a safe town. Robert Woods Johnson survey just cited Kentland as one of the safest places to live in the state. On the other hand, we're a friendly town, noted for being easy to do business with, but also driven with our agricultural background. We have a legacy of hard work. And I've pointed out 4 people that I think really are a snapshot of the fabric of our community. First is Casey Hayes Ward. She is a dedicated math teacher from a family of educated educators, and she just really loves the community with an incredible sense of community. Chandler Weiss Brinkman is a young entrepreneur with a successful landscape and construction business who is just completing a shared office complex, and I know they've really worked hard to get that up and rolling. Then Pam Pitchford and her husband were part of he worked for a Dow 50 corporation. They moved 15 times over their career and ended up settling in Kentland. And the reason was, she said, I needed a family, friends, and something to bond with, so we chose Kentland. And then Daryl Fredrickson is a second-generation businessman who owns the Kentland Elevator, which is one of our major employers here in town. But at the end of the day, he said, I want Kentland to be known as a safe and great place to raise a family. In developing our prospectus, we had to look at what our assets are, and we have a lot of assets within the community. We have close proximity to Chicago and Indianapolis. We're about 100 miles from each of those cities. We have a major access with US 41, which is a 4-lane highway, and US 24, which US 24 is unique in as much as it is the only wide load artery that is south of Chicago, south of the toll road, and north of Indianapolis that connects Ohio and Illinois to Indiana. We also have a public use airport that can handle 9 to 10 passenger planes, including what is pictured here as a Cessna C1J. We also have an excellent rail system that serves Roger Stone, our major quarry, and the Kentland elevator. With regard to the services we offer, we have medical and legal services, although we are not complete in that area. We just would love to replace a dearly loved optometrist in town and expand our medical services. We also have a full-time police department with a canine unit, which has been very active. With regard to education, we have a very enviable student-teacher ratio, and also we have adult education opportunities through our Kentland Library and a very active Newton County Historical Society. In our retail, we have a vibrant downtown, but we do have some storefronts available for retail opportunities. We also have 5 restaurants within the town, one featuring a chef who cooked at the James Beard House. We have a full-service grocery and a full-service car dealership. With regard to our parks and recreation, what we hear over and over is that green space is important, and we have currently 2 parks in town, a 3rd under construction, and we have a plan where we target to have at least 1 acre for every 100 residents in our community. We also have a community center and a pool that entertained over 7,000 guests this year. We are, as I mentioned, the county seat, so we have all the attendant services that go with that, as well as the town hall. Once we were designated an opportunity zone in 2019, we had to start laying plans for our future. The first thing we did was employ a professional branding and marketing company to help us identify and be very specific about what we wanted to market. We recruited our volunteer task force, whose brainchild is the Thrive Project, which I'm going to talk about later in detail. We completed community surveys, and we developed a strong social media presence. And since we launched our web in 2020, we have had over 600,000 impressions, so we're very pleased with the activity of our website. In 2021, we began the execution of the plans that we laid in previous completed plans, and these include breaking ground on a new firehouse. We initiated 2 fundraisers, one for our existing park in the center of town and one for a new park. In 2 months, residents and friends of Kentland donated nearly $350,000 to this project. In June, the Kentland Bank began construction of its new facility in the downtown of Kentland, and the Kentland Airport began and is nearing completion of a $2.5 million expansion. In 2022, we are turning our focus to continue the construction of our Thrive campus and completing a 5 through 20-year plan as we move forward. That is not to say that we haven't had our challenges and we have to figure out how to progress forward. In 2008, the town of Kentland and the Opportunity Zone lost 70% of its workforce to overseas movement of 3 of our major corporations here in town, which led to a lack of economic growth, slowed the improvement of our healthcare system and the range of medical services within the community. The average household income in 2019 was $45,000. The town has adopted a mission to raise the average income level within the community by $10,000 per household by attracting higher quality jobs in the next 5 years. So with the task force, we laid out our strategic priorities, first being a Thrive intergenerational wellness campus, which will be a central gathering place for the community. Like most places within the state, we are facing some a housing crunch, and we need to do some real estate development. And we also are in the process of setting up a Kentland Endowment Fund, which will help us meet new challenges and invest in the future. Again, like many communities in the state, we are aggressively pursuing developing our broadband access. And then, of course, what hinges all the plans and priorities we've set out is constant business development. So turning to the first priority, the Thrive Campus. The Thrive Campus, as I mentioned, was the brainchild of our task force, and it is a bold step toward enriching the lives of the folks in Newton County. It is initially the senior living facility is an estimated $4.5 million investment. It is one of 4 components to the project, the rest being a connective park system, a registered child care center, and a wellness complex. All these together should enhance our nearby assets, which would be right across the street of our ball diamonds, our basketball court, a community center, and our community pool, which is very active, as I mentioned earlier. And all these would be in a single property that will give us tremendous access to the downtown and appeal from everything from toddlers to senior citizens. The Thrive Project job creation is expected to generate upward of 30 new jobs in Kentland, which would include an executive director of the senior living facility, a director of the child care center, and a director of the wellness clinic, and then all the attendant and ancillary people that would be involved with those projects. The Thrive Project has been widely supported by community members. As a public and private partnership, it's required a tremendous amount of collaboration. In that process, though, we do have a committed senior living facility operator and builder. We have an interested child care center operator, and we are exploring what our priorities are. What does wellness actually mean to us so that we get the right facility in place? Then the fourth component of the Thrive Project is our connective park system. Last year, we partnered with the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, and on 2 separate occasions, we raised upwards of $350,000 within a 2-month time frame to establish these park experiences. The first of those was to work with the Jasper Newton Foundation, where we garnered support from residents and friends to revitalize Batten Park, which is in the middle of town and an important component of the Thrive Complex. 2 months later, we launched a second campaign with a partnership with the Newton County Historical Society to establish a park south of US 24, which is targeted for 2 through 12-year-olds. And then the last component of this is to take these 3 parks, or the 2 parks, and then connect it with Cass Park, an existing park within our community, to connect all the parks with pathways and exercise stations and bike trails. As we turn toward business development, I mentioned that we are one of our priorities is warehousing and logistics. To put it this way, our location puts us within 2 hours of being able to watch the Bears, 2 hours to watch the Colts, 2 hours to get to the Children's Museum, the Idle George Museum, the Chicago Symphony, 4 world-class museums, and within 2 hours, we can access 20 four-year colleges and universities. It's a short commute for us to go to significant retail locations via either major roadways. We have excellent rail, as I mentioned, and then a wonderful airport here in town. With regard to manufacturing, within Kentland, we have accomplished millwrights, machinists, and skilled tradesmen. And some of the evidence of that are throughout the state, there are several churches and courthouses that have been redone by some of the Kentland skilled artisans. Within the community, we have several commercial real estate opportunities available. There's a picture here of the former Ethan Allen distribution facility, also a retail store that closed after 50 years that is available right next to a 7-acre lot that's ready for development. We also have some property that the town owns, and then several locations along US 41 and US 24. Agribusiness is one of the key industries in our area, in as much as we have some of the most fertile ground in the world. Newton County is consistently a top county for corn and soybean production within the state, making it an ideal spot for an agribusiness to start up. With our unobstructed landscape, we're an ideal spot also for solar development. As you can see with this brief outline, we are committed to boldly moving forward, and we look forward to investment in our community. Published in 2021, the Opportunity Zone Playbook cited Kentland as one of 4 rural opportunity zone innovators in the United States. And I'm going to quote, "The rural opportunity zone innovators across the U.S. are changing the skylines of their communities. These outliers stand out for their intentionality." End of quote. And we believe that. So since 1860, the town of Kentland has faced and met many challenges. This outline is our generation's challenge, and we invite you to join us, contact us, or even better, come for a visit, although I do want to tell you, be aware, you may want to stay. And with that, I want to thank you all for your time and your attention.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was great to see how you really leveraged the ROZI initiative to just capture all of the great opportunities within Kentland and really hone in on what's important for your future and the vision you want to see come to your community. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'll invite people to drop questions in the chat if you have specific questions for Mike about Kentland, if you have questions for Julie about the ROZI initiative, or ways to get involved in either scenario, please drop those in the chat. Mike, I do have a couple of questions for you. You mentioned the goal that your community wants to raise the average income level by $10,000 for households by attracting quality jobs, which seems like a really great opportunity to really increase the economic mobility and create better quality of life for your residents. How did you guys decide that $10,000 was kind of the right goal for households to kind of, or was there were there studies involved? Are there other partners involved in helping to achieve those goals that you'd like to mention?
I'd like to say that it was really complicated, but I can't. We targeted 10,000 and said, is this realistic? When we started, it was kind of, we went backwards. We started with 10 and said, can we do this? And started looking at the types of jobs coming in, particularly in the administrative areas. And when you look at when we lost some of the industries that left town, that also took out their upper and middle management people. And when those went, so did the average income. So, really it's kind of recouping where we were with that. And we look at when you bring in companies that, typically are smaller employee-based companies, but proprietarily owned, you tend to get higher incomes, and that's what we're looking at.
That's great. Another question, just in thinking about the Thrive campus. So obviously bringing in, the new senior residents and the childcare opportunities, there might be other opportunities for service providers or small businesses that could be suppliers to those types of businesses. Do you see any opportunities for existing businesses to expand and meet that need, or other or looking to attract other businesses that might be kind of in the suppliers to those types of facilities?
Oh, absolutely. Because, when you start working with healthcare like that, you have things like occupational therapy, you have services for delivery. For instance, the online shopping experience at our local grocery store blew up when the pandemic hit, and we quickly learned that was a great service, and really it will continue on. And then you look at not only in connecting the parks, and as we see bringing those employment people in, that raises the bar for construction of housing, and then you've got a lot of the skilled tradesmen that need to be involved in that expansion.
That's great. Are there any participants that you should be able to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question? If not, I'll go ahead and ask another question. So, Mike, I know you mentioned the airport expansion is really, creating some new opportunities. Have you already seen some direct impacts from the airport project? And if so, could you share a little bit about them?
Yes, because one of the things that the airport expansion will do, well, actually it does two things. One, part of it was to help our drainage through town, and as we have experienced in the past, being as flat a ground as we are, we can get some occasional water issues, and so that will help address that. But the other part is we're expanding the landing platform, and a lot of the traffic through here in the summer is for aerial application for our agricultural fields, and a lot of those planes come in and refuel and then reload their chemicals. And by expanding the landing platform, we can have several of those going on at once and increase our traffic through here. We're also one of the major touch and go facilities or airports for the Purdue Aeronautics program. We get a lot of students that do their touch and go practice and then go back to Purdue. We have had several corporations that have used the airport in the past, and that's one of the things as the businesses expand that we want to revitalize, where those companies use their corporate planes to come in and out of Kentland.
That's great. I have a question for Julie, actually. So now that you guys have gone through two or in your second cohort for the ROZI initiative, what have you guys learned about doing this type of project with rural communities, and what do you think the future of this work looks like for you all?
Thanks, Emily. Just quickly, I'd like to say that there are a couple of other team members that I would like to introduce, because without them, we never would have accomplished what we've accomplished. Okra is a fantastic partner, and Christmas Hudgens has been leading the team from the Okra side of things, and we've kind of learned through this whole process that as opportunity zones have changed, and as you mentioned early on, we were kind of just jumping in, all of us. It was new legislation, so trying to figure it out. And as legislation has changed, and we've kept up with that, and then also learning really what works and what investors are looking for has been really important. Also on our team, we have Melinda Grismer with PCRD, and Sam Spurkle is with the Indiana Housing Authority. So I really appreciate everything they've done. We've just had a great team that's been working with all of the participants in both cohorts. Another thing that we've really learned a lot about is we knew early on the importance of having certain people on their leadership team, but didn't realize the level of the importance of that. So really having the right people on the leadership team has been key in the success. And as Mike has demonstrated, it makes a big difference when you're not trying to carry the load by yourself, but you have the right people at the table, and they've continued their efforts and continued their planning, and they didn't just stop at the end of the cohort and move on to new things, but they've continued developing that and really included it in all of their planning in their communities.
If I could pipe in there on that, one of the things that has been very gratifying and eye-opening for us is that as a small community like that, when we started this, we really didn't know where to go, and the ROZI team provided that template, and gives you a move forward in a very positive fashion, but they have so many accesses to excellent planning protocols, grant opportunities, and then data sources to help determine what's the right direction to take. And all those are important in that planning process, and makes it really easy, or not, I shouldn't say easy, but makes it straightforward once you understand how all those work together to make a plan come together.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a great opportunity for everyone, and it's been awesome to see some of the outcomes and stories that have come from participants, and just hear more about what went into planning the initiative. So thanks for sharing that, Julie and Mike. I guess maybe a final question I had. Oh, actually, I see a good question in the chat here. So we have a question from Trevor. So of all the strategies that Mike has taken to rebuild Kentland, what does he think has been the most effective?
Probably the most effective thing for us was, first of all, you need people who are engaged, that come into the program not looking for just another thing to put on their resume, but actually get involved and get dirty with the project. The second thing, though, that I thought was crucial for us was when we came in and I took this role, I asked, I said, well, I'm going to need professional help, and bringing in a branding and a marketing company to me was one of the most important things we did, because it took a lot of the day-to-day work away from us so that we could work on the strategy and the planning, and then have them put the pieces in place that could continue our forward momentum.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think looking at your website and looking at your, the materials that were in your presentation today, it looks really slick. And I think you're right that having, some high quality marketing to really help elevate the community, and to make sure that, the good work that's happening behind the scenes really conveys in a visual format is super valuable. So I'm glad you uplifted that. I think we have a question from Christmas. Are you able to unmute yourself? If not, could you type your question in the chat? I think we're having some challenges unmuting folks, it seems, so I apologize for that.
Emily, I will ask Mike a question. If he could share with us what was the most helpful part of being part of that ROZI cohort?
That's a tough one, Julie, because it's, I'm going to use what my mother used to tell us, that, when we had flat tires on our bicycles, that it was only flat on one side. And then, of course, it took us a minute to figure out she was, jerking us around. And that's kind of the way it is, that all these pieces have to come together, like a giant wheel to roll forward, because, everything comes to the fore at a certain point. that sometimes you need the information, and sometimes you need to have people help you write the grant, or and then for instance, your lead to get us, we didn't know about the Indiana housing and development, and that's the group with Patronicity with Bridget that helped us raise those funds for the two parks. So that became the most important. So, it's kind of like you look over the landscape and figure out who's the most important person at that time to get that part of that project done. And they all have a role at some point to play. So, for me to say, there was one that was overall most important, I think probably the most important is that your group got solidly behind and said, we will put the resources that you asked for at your disposal when you need them.
I appreciate that, Mike. And I love that Mike has demonstrated the importance of collaboration, that success comes in, the form of a team, and we're all working together and bringing all of those resources together.
So we have a question in the chat from Bo. So what are some of the indirect impacts of the ROZI initiative in Kentland? Has it energized the community to get engaged in other efforts in the town, or form new committees or form other collaborations that may not have happened but for the convening of the ROZI initiative?
No doubt about it. When we did the community meeting, we had over 100 people show up, and that community has been very supportive. We've been asked to make presentations to Rotary, to Chamber, to other groups within the community, and you can just feel a more positive outlook toward things, and people that will walk up and say, yeah, Kentland's really got it going on right now compared to the other, some of the other areas in our region, and that's a good feeling to have people going from feeling like, boy, we've lost a lot, to a town that says we're moving forward, and that positive attitude brings people out of the woodwork when it comes to trying to get volunteers for projects.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's you said that 100 people came out to the community meeting, and it sounds, that's what, 12, 15% of your population. That's incredible turnout if you think about what a community meeting might garner. So it's great to know that so many people have taken interest in that. We got another question in the chat. So this is from Brett Morgan. So he says, Mike, as a former Kentland resident, how does the Opportunity Zone help reduce brain drain? I love my hometown, but I didn't see a lot of opportunity for professional growth after college. And I know that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, Mike, there were a few young entrepreneurs that you kind of mentioned. What is the community doing to retain them and help them grow there?
Well, that is an interesting question in terms of providing opportunities. As I mentioned, Chandler has the construction landscaping business, wants to build that. We just had Jessica Pence, who moved in and reopened and revitalized a new a women's store. We have a young girl that just came in, or is just getting ready to open a little card and tchotchke shop that looks very interesting. We had 3 new restaurants move into town, so we're getting that retail square, in a positive direction. And now, as we look to revitalize and repopulate those factories that have left, and bring in some of the folks that are looking to get out of some of the overpopulated areas north and west of us, we're getting some of that, and they're finding this is a great place with rural activity, room to maneuver, and those small businesses come in, as I mentioned, with they're generally professionals or entrepreneurs that want to make a living here, and they're finding that this is a great place and they have access to the things that they need, so they're not missing much by not being in the concentrated urban areas.
Well, sounds like when people come to visit Kentland and see everything for themselves, they'll have some new places to go. So to enhance their visit. So that's great. Um, so I'm going to do maybe one or two final questions. I think we got one in the chat here from Brianna Smith. So she loved hearing the presentation and said that I know rural areas have had a more challenging time raising capital for opportunity zone projects. How have you been able to try to connect with potential investors, and how long do you think it'll be before the project is funded? And I assume the project she's talking about might be the campus Thrive, yes.
Right. We went over and visited a couple of senior living facilities and talked to to Jim Gillen, who's the operator of the Autumn Trace group, and found out that he was interested. It was in his wheelhouse geographically with the other facilities that he owns, and it was simply a question of let's get together. We made that discussion, and really it didn't take long to get a commitment there. With the child care, we have a woman that has registered child care in Lafayette that wants to expand her operation. And again, once we laid out what the feasibility study that we had done showed, that there was a great need for it, that it would be a viable operation. She got very interested, as did Jim with the senior living facility. As we move forward, I think it's just a question of if we have the right data and the right approach to these folks, then we can get that. The runway for different things are going to take longer than others. We realize that. But it's really just a question of continually marketing what our assets are and what the availability is. And as I said, to get the commitment on the senior living facility was not hard once we had the feasibility study.
Great, thank you, Mike. So I think we had intended to wrap up just a little bit before the hour, and I think we're about 5 minutes left. So seeing that there's no other questions, I'll see if my panelists have any final thoughts they'd like to share before we wrap up.
My only
go ahead.
my comment would be, again, thanks to the groups that have helped us organize and promote what we've done thus far, and we look forward to anyone who wants to contact us. Certainly get a hold of me. I know there's information there as to how to do that. Be happy to show you through Kentland and show you what we're doing.
And Emily, I just wanted to say again, thank you to our partners for working with us through this cohort. I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that we do have Christmas Hudgens with the Office of Community and Rural Affairs that's joined today. We have Bo Ballou, who's with the Center for Regional Development, Melinda Grismer with the Center for Regional Development. I'm not sure if Samantha Spurgle's been able to join us from Indiana Housing, but she's also been part of our team. And then once again, just thanks to the USDA Rural Development for allowing us to have the opportunity through funding to be able to provide these resources to these communities.
Wonderful. So really want to thank Julie and Mike for joining us today, and the teams that have supported them, and then Megan from our team from running everything behind the scenes and getting this event together. Like I said at the beginning, this event has been recorded, so we will be sharing that on the Opportunity Investment Consortium website. We'd also just invite you to take a look there. There's other trainings and resources, playbooks, other technical assistance guides, and things like that to support people who are looking to take advantage of Opportunity Zone funding or looking for investment, and also the deal portal that I mentioned. If you have a project that you'd love to get in front of investors, even if you don't know if it's a project that's right for Opportunity Zone funding, but looking for tax credits, debt, equity, other types of investment, that's a great free way for you to share information about your project with a variety of different investors that are both public and private sector. So if you visit our Opportunity Investment Consortium website, you'll see that under the post and opportunity. So thank you so much for joining today. And for anyone who's had some technical challenges, we just really appreciate your patience and your participation. So we will wrap up and hope you all enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, Emily,
you.
for hosting this today.